The stars stretched endlessly before the UESC horizon as it glided through the darkness of space. Captain Daniel Harper sat in his command chair watching the main screen with tired eyes. They had been exploring this sector for 3 months now, mapping systems and looking for resources. It was routine work, the kind that made you forget how far from home you really were. "Captain, I'm picking up something unusual," said Sophie Martinez from her station. The young weapons officer leaned forward, her fingers dancing across the controls. "There are structures on the 4th planet. Definitely artificial." Daniel straightened in his seat. "Are you sure?" "Positive, sir. Metal alloys, geometric patterns. Someone built those." Dr. Alan Foster practically jumped from his chair, his face bright with excitement. This is it. First contact with an alien civilization. The older scientist had waited his whole career for this moment. "Steady, Alan," Daniel said, though he felt his own heart beating faster. "Lisa, take us in slowly. Jake, keep us ready to move if we need to." Commander Lisa Park nodded crisply and began coordinating the approach. Jake Morrison, their pilot, cracked his knuckles and grinned. "Don't worry, Captain. If things go south, I'll get us out." The horizon moved closer to the planet. The structures became clearer on their screens, massive buildings of dark metal clearly advanced. But something felt wrong. The cities looked empty. No lights, no transmissions, nothing. "Where is everyone?" Sophie whispered. The answer came suddenly and terrifyingly. Space itself seemed to tear open around them. One by one, enormous ships appeared from nowhere, surrounding the horizon completely. Daniel counted 12 of them, each one 5 times the size of his vessel. Their hulls were black and covered in strange symbols that seemed to glow with a sickly green light. "Battle stations," Daniel shouted, but he knew it was pointless. They were outgunned and trapped. A holographic image flickered to life in the center of the bridge. The creature that appeared made several crew members gasp. It stood at least 8 feet tall, covered in scales as black as obsidian. 3 eyes, each burning with an orange glow, stared at them with obvious contempt. When it spoke, their computers translated the sounds into words. "Primitive creatures," the alien said, its voice deep and filled with disgust. "You have violated the territory of the Crithian Dominion. This is an offense punishable by death." Daniel stood, trying to keep his voice steady. "I am Captain Daniel Harper of Earth. We meant no offense. We didn't know this space was claimed. We come in peace." The alien, Overseer Vexcara, according to the translation, laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "Ignorance is no excuse. You will surrender your vessel immediately. Your species will be catalogued and judged. If you refuse, you will be destroyed." "We're a peaceful exploration vessel," Daniel insisted. "We have families, children on our ship. Surely we can discuss this." "Discuss?" Vexcara's 3 eyes narrowed. "Lesser species do not discuss. They obey or they die. You have 10 of your seconds to power down your weapons and engines." Daniel looked at his crew. Lisa's face was pale but determined. Sophie had her hand hovering over the weapons controls, waiting for orders. Jake was already calculating escape routes, though they both knew it was hopeless. Dr. Foster looked crushed, his dream of peaceful first contact turning into a nightmare. "I cannot surrender my ship and crew to a foreign power without knowing their intentions," Daniel said carefully. "Please give us time to contact our government." Vexcara made a dismissive gesture with a clawed hand. "Your time is up. Perhaps a demonstration will help you understand your position." One of the Crithian ships fired. A bolt of green plasma streaked across space and tore through the horizon's port side. Alarms screamed. The ship shuddered violently. Daniel was thrown against his chair. When the chaos settled, Lisa was frantically reading damage reports. "Hull breach on Deck 3. We've lost life support in that section." She paused, her voice breaking. 3 crew members dead, Captain. Johnson, Rodriguez, and Wong." Daniel felt cold rage building in his chest. They had done nothing wrong. They had tried to talk, and this creature had killed his people without hesitation. Sophie's voice cut through his thoughts. "Captain, requesting permission to return fire." Sophie. No, he started, but she had already pressed the controls. The Horizon's weapons, small compared to the alien vessels, fired a concentrated burst. The shots hit one of the Crithian ships, and for a moment Daniel thought they had done nothing. Then the ship's shields flickered and a small section of armor plating cracked. Vexcara's image turned to them, and now his 3 eyes burned with fury. "You dare? You insects dare to fire upon the Crithian Dominion? I will tear your ship apart piece by piece. All power to engines," Daniel shouted. "Jake, get us out of here now." Jake's hands flew over his controls. The horizon spun and dove, barely avoiding another plasma bolt that would have cut them in half. More shots followed, each one closer than the last. The ship rattled and groaned under the stress. "I need 30 seconds to charge the jump drive," Jake called out, sweat pouring down his face. "We don't have 30 seconds," Lisa shouted back. Sophie kept firing, not doing much damage but forcing the Crithian ships to adjust their aim. It bought them precious moments. Daniel watched the countdown, 15 seconds, 10 seconds, 5. "Captain, they're charging some kind of weapon," Sophie warned. "It's big. If that hits us, jump now," Daniel ordered. "It's not fully charged. We might now." Jake slammed the control. Space twisted around them. The last thing they saw was a massive beam of energy where they had been just a moment before. Then they were falling through the strange tunnel of faster-than-light travel, leaving the Crethian ships behind. For a long moment, no one spoke. The bridge was filled only with the sound of alarms and the hum of damaged systems. Finally, Daniel broke the silence. "Damage report." Lisa took a shaky breath. "Port side is badly damaged. Life support is at 60%. Weapons are down to 40% capacity. Medical bay is overwhelmed. We lost 6 people total, Captain. 6 good people." Daniel sat down heavily. 6 dead because they stumbled into the wrong system. 6 dead because an alien empire decided humans were beneath them. He looked at the faces of his crew, saw the shock and fear and anger there. "Get me everything we recorded about those ships, their weapons, their technology," he said quietly. "Alan, I need analysis of that alien. Everything about their biology and behavior." "Sophie, full weapons report." "Jake, how long until we reach Earth?" "At our current speed, about 2 weeks, sir." 2 weeks. Daniel accessed the communications log. Before they escaped, their computers had intercepted Crithian transmissions. He read them and felt his blood turn to ice. The Crithians were sending a fleet to Earth. They called it a pacification force to deal with the human infestation before it could spread. They would arrive in approximately 6 months. Daniel looked at his crew again. They were waiting for him to say something, to make sense of this nightmare. He thought about Earth, about the billions of people who had no idea what was coming. He thought about his own daughter, safe in school, completely unaware that humanity had just made an enemy that could crush them. "Set course for Earth," he said finally. "Maximum speed. We need to warn them. Humanity is about to face the fight of its life." The emergency session of the United Earth government lasted 12 hours. When it ended, every military leader, scientist, and politician understood one terrible truth. Humanity was not ready for this war. Admiral Raymond Cole stood before the massive holographic display showing the horizon's sensor data. The old admiral had fought in the Mars independence conflict 20 years ago, but that was humans fighting humans. This was different. This was extinction staring them in the face. "Their shields absorbed our most powerful weapons without even flickering," he said, his voice grim. "Their plasma cannons can vaporize a city block. They have faster communication across space than we do, and they're sending 300 ships. We have maybe 80 vessels that could be called warships, and that's being generous." Secretary General Marcus Williams rubbed his tired eyes. He had not slept in 2 days. "What are our options, Admiral?" "Honestly, sir, surrender or die fighting." "That's not good enough," said Dr. Claire Bennett from her seat. The weapons research director was a small woman with fierce eyes. "We don't have their technology, but we have something they don't expect. We have human creativity. We think differently than they do." "Thinking differently won't stop a plasma cannon," someone muttered. Claire stood up. "Won't it? These Crithians have conquered hundreds of worlds. They're used to species that fight like they do. Big ships, direct battles, honor and glory. They've never faced an enemy that refuses to play by those rules." Admiral Cole looked at her with new interest. "What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting we don't fight them the way they expect. We use guerrilla tactics. We hit and run. We make every victory cost them more than it's worth. We turn our weakness into strength." Commander Tyler Brooks, head of Special Operations, leaned forward. "She's right. In every war I've studied, the side with superior technology loses when they underestimate a determined enemy using unconventional tactics." Secretary General Williams looked around the room. "Can we actually win?" There was a long silence. Finally, Admiral Cole spoke. "Win? Probably not. But we can make them regret starting this fight. We can make them hurt. And maybe, just maybe, We can survive long enough to find a way to truly win. The decision was made. Earth would fight, but not the way the Crithians expected. Dr. Bennett's team began working around the clock on new weapons. They could not match Crithian shields or energy weapons, so they focused on what humans did best: kinetic weapons, nuclear devices, and swarm tactics. Within weeks, they had prototypes for missile drones that could overwhelm enemy defenses through sheer numbers. Commander Brooks organized his special forces teams. They studied every second of the Horizon's encounter, looking for weaknesses. One junior officer noticed something crucial. The Crithian ships stayed in formation following predictable patterns. They were confident, maybe too confident. They think they've already won, Brooks said. They think we'll fight them straight up. When we don't, when we ambush them and run, they'll get frustrated. Frustrated enemies make mistakes. Captain Daniel Harper spent his days being debriefed by intelligence officers. They wanted to know everything about the Crithians, every word, every gesture. Dr. Foster worked with linguists and psychologists, trying to understand the alien mindset. They're supremacists, Foster explained during one briefing. They believe they're superior to every other species. That's their weakness. They won't respect us until we hurt them badly enough to demand respect. Sophie Martinez was promoted to commander and given control of a new ship, the UESC Retribution. It was not as large as a Crithian vessel, but it was fast and loaded with the new drone missiles. Jake Morrison became chief pilot instructor, teaching others his dangerous flying techniques. The 6 months passed in a blur of preparation. Every factory on Earth and the colonies switched to war production. Civilian cargo ships were converted into military vessels, armed with whatever weapons could be mounted on them. Mining ships were turned into bombs packed with nuclear warheads and set on remote control. The asteroid belt became a massive trap. Humans built hidden weapons platforms, supply caches, and repair stations inside asteroids. They placed thousands of mines throughout the belt, waiting for the Crithian fleet. Not everyone agreed with the strategy. Some wanted to try diplomacy again to beg for peace. Others wanted to evacuate Earth and hide in deep space. But most understood that running was not an option. The Crithians would hunt them down. Better to fight on their own terms. 3 weeks before the projected arrival date, Earth received its first message from the Crithian fleet. It was simple and cold. Prepare for subjugation. Resistance is futile. The Crithian Dominion claims this system and all within it. Secretary General Williams recorded a reply, though he doubted it would change anything. This is the government of the United Earth. We reject your claim. This is our home and we will defend it. Leave our system in peace or face the consequences. The Crithian response came hours later. It was laughter. Just laughter, broadcast across every communication channel. Admiral Cole stood in the command center of Earth's defense headquarters. Around him, dozens of officers monitored sensors, tracked fleet movements, and coordinated millions of personnel. The main screen showed the solar system, with tiny icons representing human forces scattered throughout. They think we're joking, Cole said to Commander Brooks, who stood beside him. They think we're insects threatening a giant. Brooks smiled, but it was not a pleasant smile. Good. Let them think that. Let them come in arrogant and confident. It'll make the trap that much more effective. Captain Harper arrived at the command center. He had volunteered to stay on Earth for the battle rather than take a ship command. His daughter was here in the emergency shelters deep underground. He wanted to be close even if he could not be with her. Daniel, Cole greeted him. I'm glad you're here. I need experienced eyes watching the tactical situation. Harper took his position at a console. The waiting was the hardest part. Every day that passed, the tension grew. People on Earth tried to live normal lives, but everyone knew what was coming. Schools still operated in the underground shelters. Factories still produced goods, but underneath it all was fear. 5.5 months after the Horizon's encounter, long-range sensors detected the Crithian fleet. They were coming from the direction of the 4th planet where it all started. The sensors counted the ships, 312 vessels, including 6 massive dreadnoughts that dwarfed anything humanity had ever built. Admiral Cole activated the fleet-wide communication channel. Every ship, every station, every soldier heard his words. This is Admiral Cole, the enemy is here. They think we'll surrender when we see their fleet. They think we'll beg for mercy. They're wrong. We're human. We don't surrender. We don't beg, we fight. For Earth, for our families, for every person who ever dared to dream of the stars. Today we show the galaxy what humanity is made of. All stations, prepare for battle. God help us all. Across the solar system, thousands of humans acknowledged the message. Pilots climbed into their fighters. Gun crews loaded their weapons. Engineers checked their systems one final time. Parents hugged their children in underground shelters. Everyone waited for the storm to arrive. The Crithian fleet entered the outer solar system, moving toward Earth with casual confidence. They had no idea they were flying into a trap designed by the most dangerous species they had ever encountered. Fleet Commander Zarkon stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominator watching the primitive system ahead. In 70 campaigns across 50 worlds, he had never lost a battle. This would be no different. The humans had insulted the Crithian Dominion, and now they would learn the price of that mistake. Report, he commanded. The system appears largely empty, Commander, his sensor officer replied. We detect minimal ship activity near their homeworld. They seem to have pulled back all forces. Zarkon's three eyes gleamed with satisfaction. Cowards. They see our might and retreat to their planet to beg for mercy, maintain formation, and proceed to the third world. The massive Crithian fleet moved deeper into the solar system, past the outer planets, through the empty space where they expected ambush but found nothing. The humans were hiding on their world, trembling in fear. It was disappointing, really. Zarkon had hoped for at least some resistance. As they approached the asteroid belt between the fourth and fifth planets, Zarkon allowed himself to relax slightly. The battle was already won. Now came only the tedious work of occupation and cataloging another conquered species. That was when space erupted with light and fury. From within the asteroid belt, hundreds of human ships appeared. They were small, insignificant things, but there were so many. Before Zarkon could even give orders, thousands of missiles streaked toward his fleet. Not the crude chemical rockets the Crithians had seen in the human data, but sophisticated drones that wove and dodged, each one carrying a nuclear warhead. Defensive fire, Zarkon shouted. Destroy those missiles! The Crithian ships opened fire, their plasma cannons filling space with deadly energy. They destroyed dozens of missiles, then hundreds. But for every one they destroyed, two more appeared. The humans had turned quantity into quality. Explosions blossomed across several Crithian vessels as missiles broke through. The shields held mostly, but the sheer number of impacts was staggering. One destroyer lost its shields completely and took 3 nuclear blasts directly to its hull. The ship broke apart, the first Crithian vessel destroyed by human hands, but the humans did not stay to fight. As quickly as they appeared, they vanished back into the asteroid field, leaving behind automated weapons platforms that continued firing. Zarkon felt something he had not experienced in years. Anger. Pursue them. Send fighters into those rocks. Commander, that's exactly what they want, his tactical officer warned. The asteroids provide cover and concealment. We lose our advantage in there. I will not be made a fool by primitives. All ships advance into the field. Find them and destroy them. For 3 weeks, the Crithian fleet tried to catch the humans. It was like fighting smoke. The humans would appear, fire their missiles, and disappear before the Crithians could respond effectively. Hidden weapons platforms would activate, strike, and go silent before they could be found. Automated mines would detonate as Crithian ships passed. Worse, the humans used tactics the Crithians had never encountered. Small ships would accelerate to enormous speeds and simply ram Crithian vessels, their mass and velocity turning them into kinetic weapons. Each successful ramming attack destroyed both ships, but the humans seemed willing to make that trade. Zarkon's fleet had destroyed over 60 human vessels, but he had lost 18 of his own ships. 18. In 70 campaigns, he had never lost more than 5 ships total. His officers were shaken. The warriors questioned their commander. This was not how wars were supposed to go. Admiral Cole watched the battle reports from Earth with grim satisfaction. The plan was working. They were losing ships and people, yes, but they were making the Crithians pay for every mile of space. More importantly, they were buying time to prepare Earth's defenses. They're frustrated, Commander Brooks observed. Look at their movements. They're making mistakes now, spreading their fleet too thin trying to find our hidden bases. Captain Harper leaned over the tactical display. They're going to try something dramatic soon. They need a victory to restore their confidence. He was right. 2 days later, Long-range sensors detected a significant portion of the Crithian fleet breaking off from the main group. They were heading directly for Mars. "They're going to attack the colonies," Sophie Martinez reported from the Retribution. "Mars has 3 billion people, sir. If they hit the cities..." Admiral Cole made the hardest decision of his life. All available ships converge on Mars. Operation Prometheus is now active. Operation Prometheus was a desperate gambit. Every remaining human warship would launch a coordinated assault on the Crithian flagship. Not to win, but to kill their commander and save Mars. It was a suicide mission, and everyone knew it. 200 human vessels emerged from hiding across the solar system, all heading for one point, the Dominator. Zarkon saw them coming and laughed. Finally, the humans would face him in open battle. Finally, he would crush them properly. "All ships target the approaching fleet. We will destroy them in one glorious..." But the humans did not spread out to fight his entire fleet. They all focused on one target, his flagship. Every missile, every weapon, every ship converged on the Dominator. "Evasive maneuvers," Zarkon shouted, but there was no avoiding this attack. Human ships crashed into his escorts, sacrificing themselves to clear a path. Missiles overwhelmed his shields through sheer numbers. His crew fought bravely, destroying human vessel after human vessel, but they kept coming. Jake Morrison piloted a small fighter through the chaos, his hands steady despite the death all around him. He had one job: deliver a payload to the Dominator's shield generator. Plasma fire streaked past him. 2 other fighters on his wing exploded, but Jake kept flying, kept dodging, kept pushing forward. Almost there, he muttered to himself. Just a little closer. He fired everything he had at one specific point on the massive ship's hull. The shields flickered, weakened by thousands of impacts. For just a moment, they failed. Now, Sophie Martinez screamed into her communicator. 50 ships fired simultaneously at the exposed section of the Dominator. The flagship's hull cracked. Atmosphere vented into space. Secondary explosions rippled through the vessel. Zarkon had just enough time to realize he had been beaten before the ship's power core exploded, taking him and 3,000 Crithian warriors with it. The battle ended moments later. The Crithian fleet, leaderless and shocked, retreated to regroup. Mars was saved, but the cost was terrible. 120 human ships destroyed. Thousands dead. Sophie had survived, her ship badly damaged. Jake made it back, his fighter held together by luck and skill. Admiral Cole reviewed the casualty lists with a heavy heart, but when he looked at the strategic map, he saw something important. The Crithians had lost their commander and 30 ships total now. They were no longer invincible in Crithian eyes or human eyes. Captain Harper stood beside him, looking at Earth through the command center's windows. "We won?" "We survived," Cole corrected, "and we proved we can hurt them." "That's not nothing, Daniel. That's everything." Across the solar system, humans mourned their dead and repaired their ships. The Crithians would come again, stronger and more cautious. But now humanity knew something crucial. They could fight back. And they would never, ever surrender. 3 months after the Battle of Mars, the war entered a darker phase. The Crithian Dominion, humiliated by their losses, sent a new commander with a much larger fleet. Supreme Commander Kreltok was a legend among the Crithians, a general who had crushed rebellions on 50 worlds. He was not like Zarkon. He did not underestimate his enemies. Kreltok brought 500 fresh warships and a new strategy. No more predictable patterns. No more arrogance. He studied human tactics carefully, learned from every engagement, and adapted. His fleet moved in tight formations, maintained shields constantly, and used advanced sensors to prevent ambushes. The guerrilla tactics that worked before became harder to execute. Human losses mounted. The asteroid belt bases were discovered one by one and destroyed. Admiral Cole watched his fleet shrink from 200 ships to less than 80 in just 2 months. "We're losing," Commander Brooks said bluntly during a strategy meeting. "Their new commander is too good. He's countering everything we do." "Then we change what we do," said Captain Harper. He had been studying the problem for weeks. "We can't win the space war anymore, so we take the fight somewhere else." Dr. Claire Bennett looked at him with interest. "What are you suggesting?" "Deep raids. Small teams that strike far behind their lines. We hit their supply bases, their communication relays, their logistics. We make them afraid to be anywhere in this system." Admiral Cole considered this. "It's dangerous. Suicide missions, most likely. Everything we do is a suicide mission now, Harper replied. At least this way we might actually hurt them where it matters. Operation Shadow Strike began 2 weeks later. Harper volunteered to lead the first team. Sophie Martinez insisted on coming with him, along with Jake Morrison and a new addition, Kyle Stevens, a young engineer who was a genius at improvising weapons from salvaged Crithian technology. They took a small, fast ship that Kyle had modified to mimic Crithian energy signatures. The plan was simple but insane. Pretend to be a Crithian supply vessel, infiltrate their forward operating base, plant explosives, and escape before anyone realized what happened. The first mission almost failed immediately. A Crithian patrol ship hailed them, demanding identification codes. Kyle's fake codes worked barely. The patrol ship let them pass with a warning to update their systems. That was too close, Sophie whispered. It's going to get closer, Harper replied. They reached the Crithian supply depot, a massive station orbiting a moon in the outer system. Hundreds of Crithian warriors moved through the station, loading supplies onto ships. One small human team walked among them, hearts pounding, trying to look like they belonged. Kyle led them to the fuel storage section. If we blow this, we take out enough fuel to supply 20 ships for a month. They placed the charges, working quickly but carefully. Every second felt like an hour. Every Crithian they passed might be the one to realize they were human. Jake kept watch, his hand on a concealed weapon that would be useless if they were discovered. Done, Kyle whispered finally. We have 10 minutes. They walked back toward their ship, forcing themselves not to run. 5 minutes left. They boarded the ship and began departure procedures. 3 minutes. A Crithian officer approached, shouting something about incorrect departure protocols. 2 minutes. Kyle activated the engines and the ship lurched forward, ignoring all procedures. 1 minute. Alarms began sounding across the station. They had been discovered. Plasma fire chased them as they accelerated away. Then the charges detonated. The fuel storage section exploded in a massive fireball that consumed a quarter of the station. Secondary explosions followed as the fire spread. They escaped barely. But the mission was a success. Over the next 4 months, human teams struck a dozen targets. A communication hub that coordinated Crithian fleet movements. A repair facility that serviced damaged ships. Supply convoys moving between bases. Each mission was dangerous. Each mission cost lives. But each mission made the Crithians nervous. During the 6th mission, disaster struck. Harper's team was infiltrating a Crithian command carrier, trying to reach its central computer to plant a virus that Dr. Bennett had developed. They made it to the computer core, but as Kyle uploaded the virus, an alarm-triggered Crithian warriors poured into the corridor. Sophie and Jake opened fire, trying to buy time. Kyle worked frantically, his fingers flying over alien controls. Almost there, almost. Kyle, we need to go now, Harper shouted. 30 more seconds. But they did not have 30 seconds. Crithian reinforcements arrived. Sophie took a plasma bolt to her shoulder and went down. Jake dragged her back while Harper laid down covering fire. Kyle finished the upload and turned to run. A Crithian warrior appeared behind him. One shot. Kyle fell. A hole burned through his chest. Harper wanted to go back for him, but Jake grabbed his arm. He's gone, Captain. We have to move. They ran, carrying Sophie between them, Crithian warriors chasing them through the ship. They reached their vessel and escaped, but Kyle's body stayed behind. That night back at base, Harper sat alone in the dark, thinking about the young engineer who had saved them all so many times. But Kyle's sacrifice meant something. The virus he uploaded began spreading through the Crithian fleet network over the next 2 weeks. It did not shut down their ships, but it introduced small errors. Navigation calculations would be off by tiny amounts. Weapon targeting would have slight delays. Shield systems would flicker at random moments. The Crithians did not realize they had been infected. They thought their ships were having technical malfunctions. They pulled vessels back for repairs, splitting their fleet strength. Admiral Cole saw the opportunity. They're vulnerable. For the first time since Kreltok arrived, they're vulnerable. He assembled every ship humanity had left. It was not many, just 60 vessels. But they were crewed by veterans now, survivors who had learned how to fight Crithians. Sophie Martinez, recovered from her injury, commanded a strike group. Jake Morrison led the fighter squadrons. The Battle of the Asteroid Belt became the largest engagement since Mars. Human ships fought with desperate courage, using every trick they had learned. And for the first time, the fight was even. The virus did its work, making Crithian weapons less accurate, their movements less coordinated. The battle lasted 6 hours. Both sides took heavy losses, but when it ended, the Crithians withdrew. Not defeated, but no longer certain of victory. They had lost 40 ships. The humans had lost 30. More importantly, Kreltok finally understood what Zarkon had learned too late. Humans were not going to surrender. Not ever. Every battle cost the Crithians resources, ships, and warriors. Every battle the humans learned and adapted. In his command ship, Kreltok looked at the casualty reports and supply status. He had been sent to crush a primitive species. Instead, he was locked in a grinding war of attrition against an enemy that refused to die. For the first time in his long career, Supreme Commander Kreltok considered the possibility that the Crithian Dominion might not win this war. The thought was disturbing, but the evidence was clear. Humanity was the most dangerous enemy the Crithians had ever faced, not because they were strong, but because they would never stop fighting. The war was far from over, but the balance had shifted. Earth still stood. Humanity still fought, and somewhere in the vast empire of the Crithian Dominion, other conquered species were beginning to hear stories about the humans who refused to break. 18 months after the Horizon's first encounter with the Crithians, the war had ground both sides down to exhaustion. Earth's population had been reduced by 2 billion. Entire cities were ruins. The moon colonies were gone. Mars barely functioned, but humanity had not surrendered. Supreme Commander Kreltok stood before the Crithian High Council, delivering his report through holographic transmission. The council members, ancient and powerful Crithians who had ruled for centuries, listened in growing displeasure. "We have lost 174 ships," Kreltok reported. "The humans continue to resist. Their tactics evolve faster than we can counter them. The cyber warfare virus has spread to our home systems. Other subject species are showing signs of rebellion, inspired by human resistance." The eldest council member spoke, his voice like grinding stones. "You were sent to crush an insect species. Instead, you report failure after failure. Should we replace you?" Kreltok met the elder's gaze without fear. He had served the Dominion for 60 years. "Replace me if you wish, but the next commander will face the same truth. We cannot defeat the humans without committing our entire military, and if we do that, we leave ourselves vulnerable to other threats. The Void Swarm approaches from beyond the rim. We cannot afford this war." Silence fell over the council. The Void Swarm was a nightmare spoken of only in whispers. An alien force that consumed everything in its path, turning whole systems into dead zones. The Crithians had been preparing to face them for years, but they were not ready yet. "What do you suggest?" another council member asked. "Negotiation," Kreltok said. "The humans have earned the right to be treated as equals." The council erupted in angry protest, but the eldest member raised a hand for silence. He thought for a long moment, then spoke. "Send an envoy. Explore their willingness to talk, but prepare for treachery. They are still primitives." On Earth, Admiral Cole received the message 3 days later. The Crithians wanted to negotiate. He called an emergency meeting with Secretary General Marcus Williams, Captain Harper, and the remaining military leadership. "It's a trap," someone said immediately. "Maybe," Cole replied. "Or maybe they're as tired of this war as we are." Dr. Foster, who had spent 18 months studying Crithian culture, offered his analysis. "The Crithians don't negotiate with defeated enemies. They only talk to equals or those too strong to easily defeat. The fact that they're offering talks means they see us as one of those." Captain Harper, who had aged 10 years and 18 months, spoke quietly. "How many more people do we lose if we say no? How many more Kyles, how many more families destroyed? If there's even a chance for peace, don't we have to try?" Secretary General Williams looked around the room at faces marked by loss and exhaustion. Everyone had lost someone. Everyone carried scars. "We'll talk," he decided. "But we go in with our eyes open." The meeting took place on a neutral station that humans built specifically for this purpose. Williams, Cole, and Harper represented humanity. The Crithian envoy was named Korvan, a scarred veteran with only 2 of his 3 eyes remaining. They met in a simple room with a table between them. Korvan spoke first, his words translated by computers. "The Crithian Dominion acknowledges your strength. We offer peace." "Like what kind of peace?" Williams asked carefully. "Recognition of your sovereignty over this system. A non-aggression pact. Limited technology exchange. In return, you cease all hostile actions and provide the cure for your cyber warfare virus. It was more than Williams had hoped for, but he had learned to be cautious. And if we refuse? Then the war continues until one of us is destroyed. That may take years. It will cost millions more lives on both sides. Corvin leaned forward. But I will be honest with you. We need this war to end. A greater threat approaches, one that will destroy both our species if we remain enemies. The Void Swarm, Harper said. It was not a question. Corvin looked surprised. You know of them? We've been intercepting your communications for months. Tell us about this threat. Over the next hour, Corvin described the Void Swarm. They were not like any species the Crithians had encountered before. They did not conquer or negotiate. They simply consumed, turning planets into barren rocks, harvesting all life for their own purposes. They were coming from beyond the galactic rim, and nothing the Crithians tried had stopped them. How long until they reach this sector? Cole asked. 10 years, maybe 15. We must be ready. Williams looked at his colleagues. They held a brief whispered discussion. Then he turned back to Corvin. The Crithian Dominion has subjugated hundreds of species. You came here expecting to add us to that list, but we fought back and you couldn't break us. Now you want peace because you need your resources elsewhere. That is accurate, Corvin admitted. Here's our counteroffer, Williams said. We want everything you proposed, plus full diplomatic relations, unrestricted technology sharing, release of all human prisoners, and Crithian withdrawal from the 3 outer colony systems we established before the war. Corvin began to object, but Williams held up his hand. But we also offer something you didn't ask for, an alliance. Not just peace, but partnership. When the Void Swarm comes, we fight them together. The Crithian envoy stared at them as if they had gone mad. You offer alliance? After we invaded your system? After we killed billions of your people? We're not doing it for you, Harper said quietly. We're doing it because the swarm will eventually reach us too. Better to face them with allies than alone, even if those allies were recently our enemies. Corvin was silent for a long time. Then he activated his communicator and spoke rapidly in Crithian. The conversation lasted several minutes. Finally, he turned back to the humans. The High Council agrees. The Treaty of Saul will be as you proposed. The formal signing took place 2 weeks later. The war was over. Humanity had survived. More than that, they had won respect from an empire that had ruled the galaxy for millennia. 5 years passed. Earth rebuilt, using both human determination and Crithian technology. The population recovered slowly. Cities rose from ruins. New colonies spread through nearby systems. Admiral Harper, as he was now called, commanded a joint human-Crithian fleet. It was strange at first, working alongside the same species that had killed his friends. But necessity and mutual respect built bonds stronger than old hatred. Sophie Martinez captained a hybrid vessel with mixed crew. Humans and Crithians learned from each other. Human creativity combined with Crithian technology created new innovations neither species had imagined alone. Jake Morrison, now a training commander, taught young Crithian pilots human tactics. They learned quickly, their natural warrior instincts adapting to human flexibility. One evening, Admiral Cole stood at the memorial to the war dead in what had once been Washington. 3 billion names were carved into black stone. Secretary General Williams, still in office though much older now, stood beside him. Was it worth it? Williams asked, echoing a question asked years ago. Cole watched a group of children, human and Crithian, playing together nearby. It would have been unimaginable 18 months into the war. We lost so much, but we proved something important. Humanity doesn't break. We adapt, we endure, but we don't break. They thought we'd be easy, Williams said. They learned otherwise. Cole smiled slightly. They started a fight with us expecting a quick victory. Instead, they discovered they'd started a fight with the deadliest species in the galaxy. Not because we're the strongest or the smartest, but because we never give up. No matter the odds, no matter the cost, we keep fighting until we find a way to win. Above them, human and Crithian ships patrolled together. The Void Swarm was still years away, but when they came, they would face something they had never encountered before. 2 warrior species united by mutual respect, earned through blood and determination. The galaxy had learned a lesson that day when the horizon stumbled into Crithian space. Never underestimate humanity. Because once you start a fight with humans, you better be prepared for the fact that they will never, ever surrender. And that determination, more than any weapon or technology, made them truly dangerous. The war was over. But humanity's story among the stars was just beginning.